There's unity and multiplicity, and of course diversity and convergence. Now, let's look at this great man, Zhu Xi. Wing-tsit made the observation, I think he's very kind to Taoism, he said this person in Chinese history is as important, if not more, as Confucius, Mencius, Lao Tzu, and Zhuangzi. This is strange. Even though we all know Lao Tzu, the influence of Lao Tzu in Chinese history, or Zhuangzi, very few people actually read Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi is just as biblical as Xunzi. So you can say this guy, Zhu Xi, could be considered as important as Confucius and Mencius. In the last 800 years, Chinese culture in general was very much shaped by this guy. And because shaped in Chinese culture, and Chinese culture, as you know, spread to Japan, Korea, Vietnam, so it was perhaps the most influential figure in East Asia. There are two reasons, there are numerous other reasons, there are two reasons, very important reasons, why he was so influential. First is on text. You know, if you want to be a Christian, you cannot afford not to know something about the Bible. You say, well, I'm a Christian, but I've never read the New Testament. Out of the question. So you have to be serious about texts. You know, I'm a believing Jew, but I haven't read the Hebrew Bible. Strange. If you're a Confucian, you should be familiar with the 5 classics. Not that memorize the five classics. You know something about the 5 classics. So texts are important. And Zhu Xi made a revolutionary act. And he simply, not reduced, simply formulated 4 books. You know, we're all reading the 4 books today, right? Before Zhu Xi, the 4 books didn't form as 4 books. They're part of the classical tradition, and the 2 books we've been reading very carefully, The Great Learning and The Doctrine of the Mean, turned out to be 2 chapters in the Book of Rites. So what Zhu Xi did, he didn't do it idiosyncratically. He didn't do it just by himself. He followed a tradition. And gradually these 2 texts became more and more important, so we grouped them together and made a very important judgment about the sequence. The Great Learning, Analects, Mencius, and the Doctrine of the Mean, or Centrality and Commonality. This is the way to read it. You read the Great Learning, you get a comprehensive view about the Confucian project. Right? Then you read the Analects. You get all these specific ideas, how the master interacted with the people. So the project becomes enriched. Then you read Mencius. Mencius was, in a way, I call it perhaps the, if not the most persuasive, the most significant defense of the Confucian as a scholar, as intellectual. In other words, why these people ought to be recognized as important, even more important than the rulers. And they're important because they associate with the people, because these are the people who created the meaning of life for us. Following the Greek idea, the life that is not examined is not worth living. In other words, if you don't, all of you, whether you like it or not, are deeply concerned about the meaning of life. It's related to your identity. I don't think identity is something you can avoid. Who I am, who am I, and what I'm going to do, and what is my major concern. Should I follow my parents' instructions? Should I follow the dictates of the society? Should I find something that would be worthwhile to me? Can I combine the 2? If I cannot combine the 2, what is my sense of priority? All these questions you ask almost daily, and of course interact with friends, with parents and so forth. These are questions of identity. These are questions by definition, the quest for meaning of life. So no human beings can afford to be simply economic beings. So even if you study economics seriously, you know economics is not simply a process of gaining wealth. Economics is a way of organizing society. Economics is the most important because every human being is affected by it. And the people who study economics ought to know a little bit about why I study it, why it's important. You know, some CEOs never got into this questioning. That's why they got us into such a major trouble. But in any case, the question of meaning is persuasive. I'm sure all the CEOs are deeply concerned about these questions at all. And some of them may not have a very profound sense of guilt, but at the same time, they have justifications. Why we do this? Why it's important? Why the market is the best system for generating not only wealth, to benefit a lot of people. You know, I went to Davos, and it's pervasive. Right now, they're very, very depressed. But a few years ago, this pervasive sense that if we make money, if we allow the market to flourish, everybody benefits. You know, the notion is the rich become richer, but the poorer may not become poorer. The poorer will also, you know, they can lift the people out of poverty. When China managed to do that for, I don't know how many years, maybe 6 or 7 years, they managed to get more than 100 million people out of poverty. This is an incredible accomplishment. And of course, you know the Millennium Project, Jeffrey Sachs, who was a Harvard professor now at Columbia, the so-called idea of half the poverty-stricken people, you know, people who earn below $1, half of the people will be liberated or will be lifted from that poverty by the year 2010, so this year. And of course, totally failed. The poverty-stricken people, the percentage became even larger. So that's a big problem. But in any case, that's the idea of the meaning of life. And the meaning of life is related to the Book of Measures. And then you have the metaphysical vision, as I pointed out. If you take my notion, epocentric vision seriously, then you should study the doctrine of the mean. Now, many people believe it's very philosophical, and it may not even relate it to our daily life. It's wrong. One basic assumption in the Confucian tradition is anything that's persuasive, anything that is important, ought to be related to our life world, ordinary interaction. That's the reason I said the ultimate meaning of life is realizable in ordinary human existence. You can even say ought to be realized. If you encounter any idea in the Confucian tradition, it has nothing to do with your lived experience, not immediately lived experience. In general, you know it's not authentically Confucian. Now, when he put these texts together, and later they become defining characteristic of a learned person. If you consider as a learned person, you master these 4 books, even in terms of examinations.